I'm about to start another project here. So, not the roofing sheet, but all of this angle iron and pipe and Rio came from my neighbour's house. They've been tidying up their backyard, and they had all this stuff that was their dad collected, and now they don't want it. My brother-in-law talked to me about helping him set up a workshop. They've just moved house. And as a joke, my sister sent me this picture and said, forget about his workshop. What about you make this for me? So it's a bit whimsical and all. And if you look at that, all this sweeping stuff here, and the legs and all this sort of stuff, that can be the that can be made from the Rio. And I've got a pile of pipe. I've accumulated all of this bits of pipe here over the years from bits and pieces, and also this bit of pipe here with these hooks on it, and another bit. I actually put them all together for my job at the university and installed them at the place I was working at until recently, but I did it before I worked there. So I've also got bits of pipe from next door. So yeah, this is going to be my sister's birthday present. It's late, but things have happened. I was planning to get it done by her birthday, but one or two things got in the road. So this is the beginning of that process. This is my important bit of documentation. So I've got my basic dimensions there. That's based on a seat that I made a long time ago for my wife. Hang on. I made this seat, we can see a fair while ago by the stain on it, but I don't know how well you can see it, but this is quite a comfortable two-seater, well, sort of 2.5, 3, but I'm going to make the seat more or less these dimensions, because they work quite well. It's quite comfortable to sit on. So step one will be cutting out the angle for that frame. Once I've got that rectangle, I can weld it together, and then that's the basis of that's where I'm going to start everything from. So let's see if I can get cutting on that stuff. This is the joys of second-hand material. There's all these lugs that have been welded on here for the previous, whatever it is. That's not a great piece of fabrication there, but this steel, it's what, it could be 60 mil, something like that. Let's have a look. Oop. Yeah, 65 mil, and the wall thickness is maybe about 4. So that's a beefy piece of stock, and if you went down to the local steel suppliers to buy that piece of metal, you'd be into it for, it's by the kilo really, but I don't know, I'm thinking that this piece here would be $40 or something, because of the heaviness of the gauge. So I've got to pay the price of bashing this. I've started grinding that. This one came off okay. It was that was on there, but since we're just doing this for fun and to enjoy it, I can afford, I've got the time if I went out and just bought the steel for all this, I'd be into it for hundreds of dollars. But if I can make it out of bits of scrap, then my time is my time. Anyway, that's what the first part of this whole job is, knocking these bits off so I can, even before I can cut the material to the appropriate length. Here's a lovely example of measure once, cut twice. That is 100 millimeters from there to there. So, guess what happened? 1490 instead of 1590. But this is the thing with metal. You can always make it longer. Not so much with timber. That would be a bit of a debacle. I could have shortened the other one too, but I'd like to stick to my original length of 1590. And back onto my nice little welding table. Again, absolutely no reason why you couldn't do this without the welding table, but everything's nice and flat and clamped in multiple places, and we've got pins at the back to line everything up. There's one right down here, and ooh, okay, that needs to be bumped up against it, but anyway, I'll fix that up. But yeah, this just lets you do everything so much easier. So let's weld this up, eh? I've now ground chamfers onto all of these pieces of angle, and set this up in the for the right angle that it should be. So we'll just start gluing this all together. Well, frame's all welded together. I don't think we need to worry about this falling apart. It's welded on the inside and the outside. This side, I kept missing I couldn't see the route, so I've got a bit of stuff over the side. But it's all welded up. I won't lift it up. But yeah, welded on the ends, outside and inside. And I love my new welder. Well, it's not really new anymore, but compared to the old stick I had, just really pushes the weld down, really nice. So, this is the most over-engineered seat in history, quite possibly. But I made it from scrap. So now we've got to start thinking about the sides and the back. Here's the base all welded up, or the seat base. So I've got a bit of scrap cardboard, doing the CAD, cardboard assisted design. I do have CAD software, but it's not necessary for this. Better to just lay it out. This is where it goes across this beam here, and this is the arm, and I've got the leg coming forward a bit just to give it a bit of shape. Don't think it needs more stability, but it needs more shape. So here's a piece of Rio that I scored from next door, and I'm bending it by putting a piece of pipe, hang on, over the end of this, which allows me to decide where I want to put the force onto the Rio to bend it. So that worked quite nicely here. And here's the rest of the Rio. And interestingly, there's an example. These were all welded. I thought, oh, I've got these good long lengths. And then I went to use them and pulled on them, and very badly welded together. Let's have a go at bending this. Oh, and I've made, this is my template for this bend here. Here. So that just gives me a go with that. And this is a template I'm going to make, use like that. That's the bit coming down. Yeah, it's got to go like that. We have to go like that. So I use this template to give us what we need. So let's see how we go. Time to join a couple of these bits of Rio that just came apart. Yeah, as you may remember, this is just no penetration when they weld it together. So I've put reasonable size chamfers onto the bars, and I've clamped this bit of, that had already, this is an offcut from the, this bit of angle was an offcut from those bits of scrap angle that I'm using. So yeah, I've just clamped it in so that that should align the ends, and I'll give myself a decent sized chamfer to get some penetration. So let's see how we go. So here's the joint. Got a bit of grinding on it, but it should be alright, I think. I guess when we bend it we'll find out. This is the layout I've finally come up with. I've adjusted these three so that they're lined up with the piece sitting in these undercut bits. Then I've got this weight I use for balancing my telescope there. So I've got two of those that are going to lay the, I can lay that bit in, lay this rod into, and it'll bend around this point here. I want to go to 90 degrees. So this is 130 mil in diameter. So to figure out the radius from here, like the distance on the diameter here, on the circumference I should say, it's pi times d for the circumference. So pi d, so it's basically 3 times 3.1417 whatever, times the 130. Then you divide that by 4, and you've got the distance around here, which is calculate 102, which I know the distance from here to the end. So that's 580 is what I want. Actually, I probably want a little bit more because that was with a larger radius. Good thing you think these things through before you start. That radius is a little bit larger, but so I'll maybe give myself a little bit more on this end. But I've marked out where I thought I was going to bend, and I'll heat that up with, I've got this propane torch. So I'll heat it up with that, and I'm hopeful that I can just drop it in there and don't need to clamp anything, and then just bend it around, and I should be able to tell that it's where 90 degrees is because it'll line up with these holes. So that's the idea. I haven't used these layout tables before. I always watched Boilermakers working, and it was always a joke that fitters and electricians thought that the fitters and Boilermakers were the dumb ones, and the fitters and fitter machinists always bagged out the Boilermakers. But actually, well, I already knew this, but doing any trade job well is a difficult thing. And so you've always got the gun tradies, and in every shop you knew who they were, and then you got the others that just, you know, follow the instructions. And yeah, I always admired knowing how the metal behaves, and knowing how it's going to relax, or how much heat to use, or this will normalise this bit of steel, or anneal it. So if it was being used in a structural sense, there'd be a soft spot where you heat it to cherry red. But for an arm on a chair, you think this is solid 16mm rod. You see how thin a lot of the wall of material that's being used to make the cheap chairs you buy at the big shops. I'm not too worried that this is going to be a problem. But yeah, I might move that maybe another 30mm along my marking. I'll check what that radius, I'm not exactly sure what that radius is, I just sort of drew it. But I'll get a sense of where that radius is, or what it is, and readjust this 580 that I calculated. I need to know the start of that bend. So I'll have a think, and then I'll have a crack. We'll see how we go. Well, it went fairly well. Of course, looking here, it didn't follow that radius completely, but that's a neat enough bend, and I'm pretty happy with that being 90 degrees. So that was certainly quicker and easier and more manageable than what I was doing before. And fortunately with this, it doesn't match the radius on that I did without heat, but this whole thing is quite whimsical, and the whole point of it is that it's sort of a bit, I don't know, if I made a whimsical thing completely obsessively square and the same, it wouldn't really look whimsical. So I'm not too worried about that. I guess arguably I could have I could straighten this one out and do it again and match that, but honestly it's at either end of this fairly long frame, and it's meant to look like, I'm not even sure if that photo that I'm working from is not AI. It looks like it could be AI, so I'm trying to make sure, I have to make sure that what I build is well, first that it's able to be built, and secondly that it's, once it's built, no one's going to hurt themselves with it falling apart. But also no sign of any movement on my join here. So that's what I'd expect, but it's still good. All right, so I will now start laying out for the other bends. These ones, if we look at the plan, you know, I'm giving it a bit of a lean forward on that. So I'll set up or work out what to do. I can use the same layout. I just have to work out at what angle I stop at to get this. Actually, I do have my templates, so that should now give me a hand at exactly where I come to when I bend the next bend. But I'll just flip that around 90 degrees, no, 180 degrees, so that this end here is going back through there, and then figure out where to line it up, and get it ready, mark it out, and do the same. Well, as forecast earlier, or foreshadowed earlier, I went to bend. Turns out that my weld was exactly in the centre, well, not exactly the centre, but you can see there's the two marks, right on where the bend had to be on this one. And yes, my welding didn't hold up particularly well either. I was tempted to go and buy another piece of Rio that doesn't have the need to be joined together, but it kind of goes against the spirit of what I'm trying to do, and I don't know, it's kind of an interesting problem to solve. So I figure if I cut this leg here, maybe back about here somewhere or something, and then join it so it's not joining on the weak spot, so it's not bending on the weak spot. Oh, I'm feeling very good here. So this broke, as you saw, on the end here, and I shortened the end so I could put the join in a different position, and I certainly did put the join on here when I should have joined it there. Well, that was a very worthwhile thing to do. Well, a long time ago I did a TAFE course, very long time ago, on welding, and what was happening regularly was that we'd weld something together and then it'd be cut or broken, and we'd inspect the weld and the penetration. So, in the spirit of that, a few little flaws there, but overall, that looks like I managed to weld it together fairly well. So at least I know that. That went a bit better. So we've got, I think that looks quite clean. There's the join, obviously. And I was a little bit worried when I saw how close it was to the bend, but it didn't show any signs of failure. Well, I've got my layout, and nothing like what it should be. What do I say? So I've got 315 mil marked there, and if we line that up with the zero here and we go to there, it is actually 315 mil. And if I go from the inside of that radius to the end of the beginning of that radius, it is indeed 315 mil. But because these radiuses that I drew here are completely different to the radiuses that I'm getting when I heat and bend, they don't match. In fact, the mismatch is significant by probably close to 100 millimeters over here, I'd say. No, more like 60 or 80 mil out. So turns out that bending steel to the shape it needs to be is a bit trickier than I thought it. Well, I've seen this done a lot. I worked in machine shops for 20 years, and there was Boilermakers in all those shops, and I was around while they were doing things like this, bending stuff, and they'd often bend up and weld together the frames, and then they'd come over the machine shop to get pads and holes drilled, and pads machined and holes drilled and whatever. And so I've seen a lot of people doing this work, but I haven't appreciated the nuances, and you never do until you actually go to do it yourself. So I'm going to have to straighten that out and mark it out again and see if I can figure out how to actually get this to be near enough to where it needs to be. This doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be closer than that. Yes, and just went and bought a new set of safety glasses because these ones seal right up around you, round up to your face. I was wearing these glasses a couple of weeks ago, and I was grinding on that frame here, and a little spark went up, a little bit of metal went up underneath the glasses and got inside and hit me on the eyeball, and I thought it was maybe a bit of dust or something, but ultimately a day later it had annoyed me enough that I went to the hospital, and a bit of metal had rusted to my eyeball, so they had to cut it off, scrape it off, which was not all that much fun. So I was using this face shield, but it's hard to use that and get your earmuffs on well. So now these should stop me from getting crap onto my eyeball. All right, so back to it, and I'll straighten this back out and remark it and see if I can actually get this bent in a way that's good enough for what I'm doing. Well, second time went a lot better. So that's lined up there, round, and it's within millimeters of my very roughly drawn layout. So now I just need to cut this off here, and we've got one side. The other side I bent without heat. That radius is alright, but it all fell apart on this corner here. So I'll straighten this out again and give it a go with the layout as it is. So we're getting there. Okay, so considering these are going to be opposite ends of this large seat, I think that they're going to be good enough. If you're making some super duper high priced fabrication for some expensive job, maybe not, but they will definitely be good enough to hold that chair. So that was a bit more work than I'd anticipated. So now I need to make up some bits to go across between. This is where the seat sides, the base sides are going to go on each end. This seat's got these kind of going out and down. I'm not going to slavishly follow this because I'm not 100% sure how stable that would be and so forth. But I'll put in some of this sort of stuff as a decoration. And these bits here will definitely add some strength. And then we have to start getting creative. See, I've come up on both sides and I've got an armrest on both sides. But if we get the sense of it, then, you know, that should be all right. It's all about the sense of it. So, onward and upward.